Welcome to the BVTV Network, coming to you from the UK studios of BizVision. I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. This is episode 3 in the BVTV Trilogy with customer engagement expert, Matt Doc Champagne. Hello, Matt, for the final time.
Hey, Malcolm.
I know we talked about final time. This ain't going to be a final time. There's so much to discuss about this important area of customer engagement, particularly through surveys that I'll be back to Atlanta, I'm sure. Matt, today's customers are very savvy. They're also less trusting in this uncertain world. However, everyone seems to be rushing to suck them into some sort of sales funnel with nefarious gimmicks such as unmissable webinars. You're known as a technology visionary, but you're also outspoken about what we may call as either gimmicky or misleading customer attraction magnets. What should we be getting with ethical marketing if you want to start correct customer engagement?
Yes, I focus a lot on the gimmicks that are all relevant to this single book. It was written by a psychologist. I'm a psychologist as well. So Dr. Robert Cialdini is a colleague of mine. He wrote this book in 1984 called Influence, very important book that the digital marketers picked up on some years ago. And if you look at the table of contents, chapter 1 of this book is Weapons of Influence. And Dr. Cialdini called them weapons because they were so powerful. These principles, if you apply them in a selling situation, will make people want to buy from you. They'll take actions that they might not otherwise take. Very powerful. He said there are many, many tactics to selling, but if they are couched in one of these psychological principles, they'll have the most effect. So the digital marketers took that book. They looked at the table of contents. It says authority, social proof, reciprocity, scarcity, all the things that we know and love that are applied to us. If you sit in on a sales webinar, if you're in a selling situation, they're probably using one of these principles to get you to buy. The problem is, Dr. Cialdini said, we're misusing his principles that he discussed in the book.
Yes, it's the ethical marketing that we also call it conscious marketing. You know, having a concern, an understanding of people and the power that you do have them, particularly when we start to get into neuroscience, where really, you know, you're getting into somebody's head, aren't you?
Yes. And the good news is there is a solution, even using these tactics, because Dr. Cialdini said he wanted people to be, he called them detectives of influence. That is, when you're selling to somebody, to use one and only one of these tactics, not to pile them on. That's what you see. That's where it feels kind of high pressure salesy, is people will stack these and they'll say, well, now I'm going to show you my authority and my social proof. And hey, I only got 6 of these left and you better buy before midnight. And they just pile this on and it feels so wrong. And that's what I try to teach to entrepreneurs, that you don't need to pile these on. In fact, the author said, don't do that. Use the one that's naturally in the situation, and you'll find you'll get more sales and it feels better to sell to people.
Yeah, I must admit, you know, when a new piece of software comes out and everybody's piling in to try and sell it to you, you know, you think, I need to get the sick bucket out just to listen to some of the stuff that they're pushing out. It's all. What's your worst one that you hate to see?
Gosh, well, I mean, the scarcity and urgency, I think to me, it's just like waves of noise. We're like, yeah, there's only 2 left and it closes at midnight. But we feel like, you know, we need to do this online. You know, that's where you're told this is how you sell online. But that doesn't happen in real life. If you walk into a Walmart or some store and you're looking at some camping equipment, the salesperson doesn't come over to you and say, hey, Malcolm, that is a great tent. There's only 3 of them left. You want to get this right now? These 6 other people bought that same one. You need it. You got to buy it by midnight. It won't be available tomorrow. Like if they treat you, walk out the store. You're like, wow, that's a really strange behavior. But for some reason, when this camera is on, we're taught, well, it's okay to apply the scarcity and the urgency and all these other tactics, but it's not okay.
No, I totally. Just talking about the technology, do you think there's a place for chatbots in surveys?
There is. I talked with some developers at one time about that because, as you know, the chatbots, just aren't that realistic. We could use them if you apply those same principles, the same principles we've been talking about, asking the right questions in the right way, closing the loop, sharing what was heard. What did other people say about this same question? People like me, what are they doing? If you incorporated those same principles, which I believe could be done with the chatbots, it would be a more conversational experience. Right now, it doesn't quite feel like a conversation.
Yeah. We're getting towards the end of our trilogy, but I want to ask you something that's of the moment, Matt. People want to know about customers. They want to know about them as regards how much they're going to spend, their purchasing, repeat purchasing, and propensity to be a lifetime value, that sort of thing there. But do enough companies seek to actually understand the emotions of their customer?
No, and I consider it like a first date. That's what I tell my audience. Pretend it's like a first date. You wouldn't go on a first date and ask your date, hey, where are you from and how much money do you make? And, where'd you go to school? And they would walk out of your car. But you want to first get to know them. And so this conversation you're having, asking about what's working or not, what troubles are you finding? What obstacles to learning are you having? Proving to them that their voice was heard and giving them something in return. And then we accelerate up, the questions about finance and money and decision-making authority and a lot of the things that we need to know about our audience. But first you have to develop that trust. And I hadn't mentioned it yet, but that really is the overall theme here, that when you ask the right questions in the right way, close the loop, apply the principles, you're building trust with your people, with your patients and members and students and clients. And then that gives you kind of that right to ask these other questions that are more self-serving, more than helping your audience. But now they understand you've built some trust to get to that point.
Yeah, and you're totally correct. Trust is so important, and that's what you did with the cruise lines, with their travel agents. You built up trust, and if viewers and listeners want to get that story, go back to episode 2 to listen to Matt explaining. Thanks, Matt. Now let's give viewers and listeners details of your URL, which obviously people can see on the screen behind me, but for listeners, let me spell it out. It's all the W's, MatthewChampagne.com. Matthew, and Matthew's got 2 T's in it, by the way, MatthewChampagne.com. Now, if you then take that URL, www.matthewchampagne.com, go /BVTV, you can go and to download free Matt's great 9 principles that you need to be grasping as the fundamentals of survey success. Matt's book is called The Survey Playbook, and it's available at Amazon and on Kindle. I wanted to bring you this opportunity of meeting Matthew Champagne, as I passionately believe in what I call ethical marketing. I'm in no way disparaging old methods of sales or marketing. What I am saying is that today your existing and prospective customers quite rightly demand correct respect if we are to enjoy their loyalty and their trust. Many thanks, Matt, for a great trilogy.
Oh, you are welcome. Thanks for inviting me.